This program is paid for by Good Vibes Media.
Coming to you from a wrong turn off Route 66. Somewhere in the Sonoran Desert, it's James Out West.
Good evening, Phoenix and friends. Let me talk to you. James Out West on this peculiar Monday, April 15th. Tax day. Almost forgot. Didn't forget to do them, but almost forgot it was tax day.
Right.
In the Valley, Phoenix, KDUS Studios we're in Storage Room B. Shout out to Office Space. Pat Stat Guy, Aaron in the house. We got a crowded room here today, ladies and gentlemen. We're about 15 minutes late for our normal show, but we were having some technical difficulties. But the great IT people here are getting switched and figured out. So we're actually on the other side of the glass with Aaron.
Yeah.
This is interesting. It's a little intimate. The light's a little bit darker
I like
in
it in
here.
here,
I do.
yeah.
I like it too. Yeah, it doesn't mess with my eyes. So no camera this week, so no video for that, but just audio as always. So we're going to go around the room. Patrick, sir, as always. Let's start there. How was your weekend? Well, we weren't on the week before, so you have a little bit to encompass. How was your last 10 days?
Honestly, it's just been basketball and writing for me. I am a writer, so I do a lot of that. But besides that, I know the Suns had 3 or 4 games in town. I was starting with the Cavs on Wednesday. I think they had a Friday game, a Sunday game, a Tuesday game, something like that. And then you had, the Final Four here as well.
Yes,
so
sir.
there was just basketball, and then it continued this week as well, more basketball. So that's been my life.
Nice. It's not a bad life. Hey, ball is life.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
there
what
you
they
go.
say. That's what the young kids say. So, Aaron, sir, how was your weekend?
It was a good weekend. Saturday, went to the Diamondbacks game.
Nice.
Usually, ASU baseball is a thing that takes up the majority of my week. Only did that on Sunday, so I didn't have to do too much ASU baseball. So baseball filled, but not necessarily the usual kind.
Absolutely. He's still in the spirit. He still has his throwback pinstripe Diamondbacks hat on. Nice. My weekend, very much the same. Watch basketball. Did go to the Final Four. Yep. Shout out KDUS. Me and Kayla sat side by side for the final game, which was really cool. Got to hang out with everybody. It's a lot of schmoozing. It's a lot of, hey, how you doing? Who's this? How you doing? You act like you know people. They know you.
Right.
It works.
Yeah.
So I had a great time. I will tell you it was electric. It was a good time. And then over the weekend, hung out with the kids and just laid low. Watched a lot of movies. Hooked on a show on Apple TV Plus called For All Mankind. I know it's been out for 4 years. Sorry, I'm a little late to the party. But it's real good. So much so the wife she's 4 or 5 episodes ahead and told me to catch up. You know how that goes. So, yeah, that was the weekend. All right. So, Pat, what are we going to do today? What are we going to talk about?
Yeah, so we're going to start with college basketball. You can tell us a little bit about your story time with James about the Final Four. So we'll get into college basketball, the men's and women's game, wrap that up. Then we'll dive into the WNBA draft, which was today. Talk a little bit of the NBA draft. Hop into the NBA playoffs, talk about some NBA regular season awards. And then, I think we're going to get into some MLB updates, talk about Jackson Holiday got his first hit. Going to talk about that and get into some early season surprises. Mm-hmm. And I think that'll be all we have.
Yeah, I don't think
we have time for football.
This will be the only show the entire year, ladies and gentlemen, where we probably will not talk any NFL.
Yeah.
I don't know that we're definitely not going to fit in 45 minutes. We don't know if we were going to have anything anyways. It's a little slow right now.
What's it going to be? Just more drafts,
speculation? You know who does that best? Donnie D, SI Fan Nation. Shout out Donnie D from the Berg.
That's
Miss
true.
you, Donnie. Love you, Johnny. All right. So college basketball. Yeah. So I was able to attend the Final Four for the men's. Obviously, the women's had happened, and then the national championship, which we'll get into. It was an electric feeling. Obviously, I think they did a great job. Phoenix did, being at State Farm. It's the second time it's been there in the last, 6 years or 7 years, something like that.
Yeah, 7 years ago, I think.
It's incredible how the stadium looks when you have a basketball court on it versus the NFL field, if it's a football field. I was thinking about depth perception and how it would mess with shooters. And I kind of think it did mess with both shooters in the championship game because they were a combined 7 for 65. That's a little bit egregious, but it was ridiculous. I think they were 27% from 3 combined. Both teams shot terrible, and I wonder if that played a factor. But fan-wise, they showed up. Man, Purdue was here. I think everybody from the state of Indiana was here. For real. They were either here or they were in Cleveland for Caitlin Clark's situation. Iowa and all of them traveling together. It was nice. Boy, those guys are big. We're talking about.
I was going to ask you, how close did you actually get to Zach Edey?
So I was on the court. They were very quick to let you know that you could not film anything when you're on the court. You could take still photos, so that was nice. But he's larger than life. I mean, he's way bigger than he sounds. And 7'3" or 7'4", 7'5", 300 pounds is big, but he's bigger in person, and he's chiseled, yo.
Right. Well,
I remember him last year looking like a bag of mayonnaise, as I like to call
Right,
it.
yeah.
And then this year he was jacked, bro. He had you could see the delts, the traps, the Troys. He had everything going. I don't know if Troys are one of them, but
well,
if
yeah,
it is,
I mean, I
he
kind
had
of
it.
want to go into that more later when we talk about the NBA draft, because I do think he did put in a lot of work in the offseason to kind of get himself NBA ready and, NCAA championship ready. Unfortunately, they didn't get it done against UConn, the historic UConn Huskies, and Dan Hurley, who have been running college basketball for the last 30 years.
Well, and what did they do the last two tournaments? UConn. Then the second half they pull away and they beat everybody by double digits.
Yeah,
and it's a ridiculous amount. They were plus 140 on the tournament, plus 140 points on the tournament.
Yeah.
That's almost beating every team by 20 points. That's a ridiculous number to have. And for Purdue to have won that game, they would have had to have gotten, I said, first off, I was telling Kayla, shout out Kayla, I was saying, he's going to have to get 40, and they're going to have to be perfect. And he almost got 40, but they were far from perfect. And they couldn't have had their guys, their supporting cast around Edey is not what UConn has as a whole.
Right.
And so it was evident. And then UConn was able to do something that will go down in history, that will put them aside from the other great UConn teams and the women's teams as well. I mean, what'd you say? In the last 30 years, UConn's men and women's have 16 championships?
I didn't say
or
that,
16
but it
Final
sounds,
Four. It's ridiculous.
Right. Not championships.
They're running college basketball at both ends, both the males and female. So it was nice to see that. The game was awesome. There was a lot of people there.
And they've won it again, because they've won it as the number one seed. Going in, they obviously last year they were very dominant, so they went in as the overall number one. But I remember back in my favorite college basketball players of all time, right? James Harden and Kemba Walker from UConn. When they won it, they came in as a 6 seed or a 5 seed. So they've won it multiple times, and they're not always the number one seed. So yeah, UConn has really run college, but I'm sure there's the Dukes and the UNCs will have something to say about that. But
I think they're all right there. I mean, I think they all have 6.
Yeah.
6, I think, is the number.
But do you know what the crazy thing is? You were talking about how dominant they are, and now they pull away, and it's coaching, and we always hear about Dan Hurley. The other coach on that team is Luke Murray.
Yeah.
Bill Murray's son. Right?
Which is very cool. Bill was there, and he definitely played up for the crowd and did well with the camera work in between timeouts and stuff.
Right, and I think what I've been hearing is that Luke deserves a lot of credit for that offense and for the offensive scheme. And so I'm over here thinking, if the Suns can't seem to figure it out, let's hire Bill Murray's son in the offseason. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what, and we'll get into the Suns. Obviously, we got a lot to talk about there. They ended up, I think, 9th overall in offense. Can you believe that? And 12th overall in defense.
Really?
Well, you watch their games all year. That does not look right. That doesn't sound right. But then when it finishes out 9-11, so it's they say numbers don't lie, but they can fib. They can tell a story with leaving stuff out.
Yeah,
for sure. Because that team has struggled. They've had their ups and downs.
Let's wrap up the women's though, because again, the UConn Huskies, the dominant UConn Huskies, they were able to finish it out, and one person that wasn't able to finish it out was Caitlin Clark, right? She wasn't able to get that championship that you've said she's needed to kind of cement herself as the greatest college basketball player of all time, female basketball player of all time.
People said that. I didn't say that. People said that.
Well, you brought it up.
I brought it up. Yeah, I was going to say she's already get their back to back with Iowa. She's already.
Well, you just said you were talking about the pressure on her to get a championship, right? But again, she went up against a South Carolina team that was undefeated, and they were going up to finish the perfect season. So it was definitely tough, but
absolutely. Well, and with that being said, with the women's game, Caitlin was very similar to Edey in the sense of she didn't have the supporting cast that UConn, even though they got past UConn and that South Carolina had, and and for that matter, LSU to that standpoint, they played better. They played better than their game because of her, and so we'll see what happens because we know their names: Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark. You got. This sounds terrible. I can name 2. There's 5 other ones that I was watching the draft from today, the WNBA draft, because it did happen today. She did go number 1. And seeing who kind of went, through the top 7 and watching where they're going to go, what does that mean for next year? What the women's college basketball game did in numbers and ratings on television and bringing new eyes to the sport, is it going to carry over next year with these girls now moving on to the WNBA? Because is the WNBA going to carry on that fever? No pun intended, Indiana. Are they going to carry that over? Because Caitlin Clark, for sure, we'll see. Are they going to get 1 million viewers, 5 million viewers for a game? What's her first game going to be? And if she doesn't play well, or they're not good, she's going to Indiana, I don't think they've made the WNBA playoffs in 7 or 8 years. So they obviously had the number 1 pick for a reason. Now, I'm assuming when you have a generational talent like Caitlin Clark, you can maybe turn things around really quickly And in the WNBA, I think those things happen. But all these other teams, and they're all gunning for her. They're all talking their trash. They're all like, just can't you wait? I hope she goes in and breaks ankles. I hope she goes in and drops 50 week game 1. Comes out, 7 for 10. She's shooting from the logo. She's getting the crowd fired up. That's what I want to see happen. Yeah. Because the success of the WNBA, and if these women want to make more money, they better cheer on Caitlin Clark. They want her to succeed because if she makes more money, they're all going to make more money.
Right. Well, I think the big person that's kind of been, it was Diana Taurasi, right? Yeah. She was on Scott Van P and, Scott Van Pelt. And he asked her, about Caitlin Clark and these girls going to the NBA and what it was going to be like for them. And, Diana Taurasi was like, they're in for like a rude awakening type message, right? And then she did kind of like, back it up a little bit and said, for the ones it's not going to be the same for everybody. And like, if you're really good, like that does translate, you're only going to get better. But she was kind of put this out there, like, there's going to be growing pains and that, like maybe like it doesn't translate right away and it's going to be hard to translate right away, which like I get her point. But at the same time, Diana Taurasi came in and dominated right away. Like she's one of the girls who did it. So act like Caitlin Clark can't come in and do the same thing that you did. It was a little ridiculous to me.
And we're talking about pressure. I think Caitlin Clark's pressure she's had over the last, especially this season, the crowd she's played in front of, I'm sorry, but I bet you the Iowa crowds were larger than any WNBA game this season, including their final. Shout out to the Las Vegas Aces. You know what I'm saying? Like, unfortunately, she carries a lot of weight. Heavy as the crown, and she's coming in swinging. Look, this is it. The WNBA needs this to be a success. Yeah. They need Angel Reese to be a success. They need these teams that took these women that are really good, that have names, to be successful because it's bringing in a lot of – now with the buzz and that it starts really soon – and with the travel of it, you have a lot of younger, the next generation of fans, the next generation of people that are going to spend their money to pay the pockets of these athletes coming up. They got to carry the buzz of what has happened.
Yeah, and there's also it's not even just fans. It's like the little girls who who play basketball, right? Right. Like not just watch it, right? Like these girls need signature shoes. Like it all needs to start happening. And I kind of want to go back a little bit to like just the college game and like the comparisons that Caitlin's been getting. Right, because they're talking about, is she the greatest of all time? Well, she didn't go to UConn, right? She went to Iowa, right? So a lot of people were telling her, like, if you go to Iowa, like, you'll never be playing for a championship. She's played for 2 of them at Iowa, right? Yeah. The girl that they say is the greatest of all time, the GOAT in college basketball, is Breanna Stewart, is the argument, right? So Breanna Stewart, what guy? I think 4 championships at UConn. She was the most outstanding player of the tournament 4 times, right? Like it's unheard of. But she was on UConn.
Yeah, she played with like 13 other All-American high school athletes.
Put Caitlin Clark on that. Take Breanna Stewart off and put Caitlin Clark on. I know they're very different positions, but like that UConn team is winning a lot of championships. Caitlin Clark has a couple championships under her belt.
She wanted to go to UConn, and they didn't offer her a scholarship. So she ended up going to Iowa.
Saying, there's a reason Breanna Stewart and, Caitlin Clark, when you comparing championships, I feel like that's an unfair comparison.
It is. And she draws eyes to the game like Michael Jordan did. Not saying she's the level of him, but I'm saying the eyes of it, like Tiger does in golf. Most people that don't care about golf, when Tiger's heyday, they were tuning in on Sunday. Yeah. Like I'll be honest, I didn't watch a lick of the Masters. I know I'm horrible, but we got a golf guy that does all that here. I didn't watch any of it. If Tiger would have been in the hunt, you bet I would have been sitting there watching it. Yeah. So she carries the eyes of that to me, in my opinion. Like, so if she can continue to play that way, she's going to have that opportunity. You know who else she holds? She's like that with is. Remember when Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire and all that stuff with the home run in the 90s, and they were cutting into live news? Right now, Sammy Sosa's a bat for the 62 home run. You know what I mean? Like, it was that big. Caitlin Clark's kind of that way. Yeah. Like, she's got this aura about her. When Johnny Manziel was like face of the earth, like scorched earth, it was so awesome. Yep. All right, so you guys are listening to KDUS 1060 Phoenix, home of the Dan Patrick Show, Rich Eisen, and of course, James Out West featuring Pat the Stat Guy. Make sure you guys come on back on the other side. We're going to talk a little bit of basketball. See you guys on the side.
Welcome back to James Out West, featuring Ryan Rooks on KDUS 1060.
Thanks, CJ. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us into the night. James Out West, Pat the Stat Guy, Aaron. On the same side of the glass as us today, KDUS 1060 Phoenix. So we were talking, well, that might have been the longest WNBA / female basketball segment we will have, but we'll see. Maybe not. All right, so NBA-wise, we have a draft coming up, right?
Yep.
We obviously have the playoffs, which we're going to dive into because the team here, and there's a bunch going on that we can get into. But first, because we were talking WNBA draft, and now, the caveat on the other side of that is the NBA draft.
Right. So like we were just saying in the break, we're going from possibly the strongest WNBA draft of all time to one of the weakest NBA drafts of late. So, we're looking at kind of these mock drafts here lately, and, there's some updated ones in the last few days since the tournament. And oddly enough, not many tournament players' names you'll recognize from the tournament in the top 10.
Makes no sense.
So like you have Donovan Clingan, I think projected at 6, something like that.
And that's the guy that was in the national championship game from UConn against Zach Edey, correct?
Yep.
And he's a top 10 pick?
Yeah. No.
And they're slating Zach Edey to go where?
Yeah, actually, it depends on who you read, like where you're on. So, they have Clingan as a top 10 pick. Some of these kids from UConn going top 10, and then they have Edey. National Player of the Year 2 years in a row, 7'4", 300 pounds, 21 years old, compared to Yao Ming going 21. But hey, he's worked his way into the first round because last year he was considered a mid to late second rounder.
This is ridiculous. Who is this? I want to give this person credit that wrote this. Who is this?
This is the NBA on NBA.com.
This NBA.com?
Yeah.
That's just to get clicks because it's going to get people like us talking about this. That is ridiculous. A guy that, I'm sorry, did you all watch the national championship game? Edey went. That's a direct 1-to-1 comparison. Him against another big man in a big game. Yeah, that big man on the other team won, but Zach Edey dominated.
And this is
and Zach Edey made that dude look at times feeble. That's right, I said it, feeble. So I think the fact that they're going to say, hey, this guy's he's a top 10 pick, but Zach Edey's not a top. They get him wrong all the time. Right. I got to back up from the microphone. I'm getting loud. They get it wrong all the time. Bro, they get top 10 picks wrong every year. And you're telling me you're not going to take a flyer on a guy like you said? His comparison is Yao effing Ming? Yeah. Yao Ming?
Right.
Come on, dog.
Right, I get it.
What are we talking about?
Yao Ming was slow back
We're going to take Bronny James is getting drafted before Zach Edey. That's what you're saying. Bronny James is getting drafted before Zach Edey.
Yeah,
That's
ridiculous. Who knows? Yeah, no, it is ridiculous, kind of the comparison, and that's why he stayed, right? Like, I think, obviously, there was another 7'4" guy in the draft with him last year in Wemby, but I don't think he probably thought, hey, I'm better than a second rounder. I'm going back. I'm going to see, try and get a championship, try and improve my draft stock, and technically, he did improve his draft stock, but 21 is ridiculous. Because, again, I really did think he did a great job slimming down. He played every single play. His endurance is crazy. So he might still be a little slow compared to, I don't know, some of the super skinny big men out there that we have. Chet Holmgren can probably move a little faster than him. But at the same time, the guy deserves
like a bird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It is just kind of ridiculous where Zach Edey is, especially when we're talking about this being such a bad draft, right? So.
Well, yes, exactly. Well, in any draft, they get it wrong all the time. We've talked about this. And if that's the case, if they got him slated to go 21, hey, Phoenix, do yourself a favor. I know you don't have any draft picks, but you can figure out something to go get a guy like that because guess what? Joker's not going anywhere. Anthony Davis isn't going anywhere. And I like Nurkic. I do like him a lot. And he's formidable, but if you have a chance to get another guy that can run, that can play defense, that's big like that, that's a space eater like Edey, maybe you do. I know you got Bol, but I mean, size and width, we're talking 7, what'd you say, how tall?
7'4".
7'4", 300 pounds.
Yeah, and so
right now he's chiseled.
The kid who's projected to go number 1 to the Washington Wizards, Alexander Sarr, he's from Australia, or he's from France. He's been playing in Australia. He's 7'1", getting Jaren Jackson comparisons in this article. But yeah, he's a 7'1" kid who can move. So I get that's actually pretty exciting. Reading his comparisons. Okay. He's got 3-point range. So there might be some good NBA players, but again, the draft altogether, we haven't even heard about this kid. But he just declared for the draft this last week.
So tell me who's wrong. The writers that vote on the National College Player of the Year or these NBA fake scouts that are on here writing these articles. And the reason I bring that up is let's go back and look at some of the guys that have won the National Player of the Year. Larry Bird, was he pretty good? Mark Aguirre, was he pretty good? Danny Ainge, was he pretty good? Ralph Sampson, Michael Jordan, I almost said Michael Jackson, almost slipped in there. Pat Ewing, Chris Mullins, Walter Berry, David Robinson, Hershey Hawkins. You've all heard these names. Sean Elliott, Danny Ferry, who obviously played in the NBA a long time, but rode the bench for a while. He was a National Player of the Year in some of the NBA. Larry Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal. I know I'm going on the list, but the point is, let me get to some guys that didn't make it. Ed O'Bannon, Sean Respert. I mean, Shane Battier had a great career. It was long. He wasn't that good. But David West, he played a long time. All these names were guys that were impactful at shout out Adam Morrison, maybe not. But the point is you have all these guys. This guy won 2 of them.
Yeah.
And you're telling me he's the 21st best guy in the draft?
It's crazy.
Garbage, sir.
No,
garbage.
Someone's going to get a steal in Zach Edey. And again, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. And we see that the kid works hard, right? Like he lost a lot of weight. He obviously worked hard in the offseason. But I'm now noticing this kid is French, right? This kid that's supposed to go number 1. He's 7'1" Frenchman, right? The French are going to win a gold medal in basketball with Wemby and this kid someday. Like, dude, they got Wemby, this kid, Rudy Gobert.
Which we can talk about. The USA basketball team just finalized 11 of their 12 spots, which we'll get into. But, I want to kind of already, this is fast. I want to walk back what I said a little bit because you hear all those national greats. Yeah, that was then. Let me give you the last few. Denzel Valentine, Frank Mason III, Jalen Brunson, shout out, stud. Zion Williamson, stud. Luka Garza, he plays. Obi Toppin plays. Luka Garza won it twice, just 2 different years. Yeah. And then Zach Edey. Buddy Yield, Dougie McDermott's. Dougie McBuckets was pretty good. Trey Burke. I mean, it slides a little bit. That speaks to coaching in a deeper conversation for another day. All right, so the draft is going to be horrible. We'll see. There'll be 1 or 2 guys that come out that'll end up being Flyers. Hopefully, it's Zach Edey.
Right, like this is the year you don't want a top 5 pick, right?
Right. Listen, nothing could be worse than the Cavs taking Anthony Bennett with the number 1 overall pick.
You're right. That is pretty bad.
So all right. So if we got nothing else in college basketball, all right, and now we're done with the draft. The NBA playoffs, ladies and gentlemen, is rolling starting tomorrow. The play-in tournament. They're not in the playoffs. The play-in. We've got, which is crazy. You got the Lakers playing the Pelicans, who went from a chance of being like basically a 3 seed a week ago to not making the playoffs. All they had to do was get a victory. And to have it go the way it did, for the Lakers to go in there and stomp a mud hole in them and then go, we don't have to fly home. We're going to stay right here. We're going to win this game. No, this isn't for the analytic nerds to say, well, maybe they should lose. So then they win the second game and they get to play, OKC instead of Denver. Those people never played competitive sports in their lives. You do not tank a game. This isn't Madden. This isn't, you can't do that. You have to go out and get the victory and then hope for the best. You want to play Denver. If you're the Lakers and you can get that win and you move on and you're going to play Denver, the number 2 seed, you want to play Denver while you're still fresh. You don't want to be, as the Lakers, you don't want to be playing Denver if you happen to get out of the first round and see them later on. You'd rather see another team later on, to be honest, because they can probably play with anybody in the 7 game other than Denver, to be honest.
And also, last year they were in the play-in and made it to the Western Conference Finals where they played Denver. Again, they got smoked. But they know they can go far playing, coming from the play-in spot. And a big thing about playoff basketball is momentum going into the playoffs, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't want to just sit and especially like a team like the Lakers, like you want to keep playing, keep this momentum up. They're 7-3 in the last 10. Golden State's 8-2 in the last 10. A couple teams in the play-in that have great momentum and great playoff experience. So, watch for, and what is the play-in confuses me, how many games you need to win, how many games you lose and you're out. But either way, those teams could be very dangerous in the play-in.
Yeah. On both sides, both the East and the West, and we'll get into that. So Pelicans, Lakers, the winner of that moves on to play the Nuggets. The loser moves on to play the winner of the 9-10.
Okay.
So the winner of the 9-10 moves on to play one more. The loser of the 9-10's out. So chances are Sacramento Kings are going bye-bye. Golden State Warriors are going to move in and probably play the loser, probably play the Pelicans. And the winner of that will go on to play the Thunder. Right. We already know who the Phoenix Suns are playing. They're playing the team that they just had to go beat, on Sunday, last day of the year. They needed to win to make the playoffs. They needed a little bit of help. They got it from the Lakers. They got it from some other things. Denver's had a bunch of people. They knew there's a chance they won anyways. But the Phoenix Suns know they're going to have – so they played them what? They played them well this year. They played them 3 games this year. They beat them all 3. Granted, different teams throughout the year. They played different players, et cetera. the Suns team is a different team every quarter, let alone every game every week.
Right.
It seems like. So to me, you can't rest on, what they've done in the past, or shout out Mike D talking about, what they did 10 years ago. Like, it doesn't matter. Those guys are retired.
Nah.
But knowing that shout out, just playing Mike. But having that first 2 games there, they feel confident that they can beat them. They just beat them there in Minnesota, and they're gonna be able to travel there and hopefully you got to get 1, but I think they can get 2 immediately.
Yeah, I mean, look, like you said, they've played 3 games this year. Suns won all 3. First game of the year in November. It's very early in the season. They won 133, 115. Second game, more of a defensive battle, 97-87. And then, of course, last game of the season, 125, 106, which I think is the game that matters the most because they actually saw the Timberwolves at full strength with Cat and Rudy and all of them. And then, so it gives them more of an idea of what to expect going into this playoffs as far as physicality and what it's going to take to beat a Timberwolves team at full strength. Because I know I was actually in the post-game presser with the Timberwolves coach after the second loss, and one of the reporters pointed out that, look, the Timberwolves have had a great season, right? Like, they were number 1 or 2 in the West like most of the year. Right. And so finishing third is probably a big disappointment to them. But either way, no one has really, at that point, to lose 2 games handedly to the Suns, no one had beat the Timberwolves like that all season. And he didn't seem worried because, again, they hadn't put a full game together. And so this last game was a huge win.
Absolutely. All right, so on the other side of the break, we're going to get into more basketball because there's just too much to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. You guys are listening to James Out West on KDUS 1060 Phoenix, home of NAU football. Go Lumberjacks. Aaron's favorite, ASU baseball. Let's go Sun Devils. And, of course, shout out Bowers, your Las Vegas Raiders. Come on back.
Welcome Books on KDUS 1060.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us into the night. James Out West, Pat the Stat Guy, Aaron on the other side of the glass, on the same side of the glass this week.
Yep.
It's very interesting. This is a sweet room, though. It's a little tighter than the other room, got to be honest, but this is nice. I
nice. I like the
appreciate
setup,
this.
yeah.
I do like the setup. So, hey, we overcome and adapt. Or adapt and overcome. Either way, I got it wrong. Doesn't matter. Hopefully the Suns don't get it wrong because it'll be a big disappointment if they get bounced in the first round to a team that, they had their number this year, but there's a lot of variables that play into that. And frankly, the Timberwolves, for the most part, and even going into the last game of the season, had a chance to be the number 1 seed in the West.
Right.
They held the number 1 seed or was in the top 3 the entire year. I mean, that's something that we've talked about. You know how much, and I know how much you are an Ant fan.
Yeah.
Not so much Ant-Man of Marvel, but Ant Edwards.
Yep.
Big Ant. He's a one of a kind. He is a unicorn. He is a just break the mold type cat. Love his energy. That team should and could be dangerous for years to come. I don't know what that's going to look like. We'll see here. I think the Suns have an obvious. I mean, I think if everybody's looking at this, people are taking the Suns. I think, especially in the national side, you got to think KD, Book, these guys, 2 guys who are on the USA Olympic team together, coming up. The Timberwolves, on the season, they outscored by 3 points. They have, a couple more rebounds, a couple more assists per game. They're pretty even per se. But they know they can beat them there.
Right.
And you saw how, I almost said high Bradley Beal was, but not that, how excited he was when they won that game, talking about this is our time. This is it. This is the time we're going to do it. We need to get a ring.
Yeah.
We need to have stuff going on, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Big stop, Bradley Beal.
He was. And you said he's been basically your favorite Sun player this year.
He's pretty much my favorite Suns player. I love Bradley Beal and his hustle and his personality. He's a family man. I see his 3 boys out there. Everyone talks about the Curry boys. I think someday we might see the Beal boys tearing it up in college and pro basketball. You never know. But either way, because, I really like Bradley Beal's hustle, and I feel like he is a good leader. And, he came in over to this team from Washington where he's supposed to be the 3rd guy. And I like him a lot. And I do kind of think that maybe Bradley and KD need to step up in a little bit of a bigger leadership role. I know they came in going, this is D-Book's team, but they're the veterans, and they're the guys that I feel like the younger players will rally behind even a little more than D-Book. So, but yeah, no, I'm a big fan of all these guys. I do think this matchup it's going to come down to injuries and kind of adjustments, right? Will Frank Vogel pull the right levers with this versatile team that he has, because I think they can change their lineups a lot. Like right now, you've got Nurkic and KD as your bigs. Like you can even swap KD over to center sometimes, and that's, to me, that's where the Timberwolves have the advantage, is with the bigs, right? Because I was watching the last game and I saw KD, he got manhandled a couple times by, Rudy and Cat, and he's just a skinny guy, But so I do think Timberwolves have the advantage as far as the bigs. Suns have great length, of course. My brother reminded me about that. But I think the Suns, their ability to run the floor and their shot makers, that's where the Suns have the advantage.
Absolutely.
And the shot makers, they have a huge advantage. So,
and speaking of that shot maker, Grayson Allen, shout out him getting, as the kids say, the bag. 4 years, $70 million, the NBA
Nice.
3-point percentage leader. Basically, I think wire to wire almost, it seemed like. I was there when he hit I think he hit 8 or 9 3-pointers in the first quarter of a game. Like he was going ballistic a few weeks ago. So they're rewarding him for that. And frankly, it just tells you again, look, they are all in on the team that they have, because I can't imagine what their, and I'd have to look into it, but I can't imagine what their luxury tax is going to be with all of these people and all these guys making this money. And you're not going to wholesale change. I mean, granted, I guess if they got swept, which isn't going to happen, but and the bottom line is this: I just hope they're not looking forward to going, hey, we can get past the Timberwolves because we're going to play either the Lakers or the Nuggets.
right.
Because that's where the bracket matchup is. So if the Suns, as they should, get past the Timberwolves, even though they're the lower seed or the higher seed, however you going to call it, they know what's on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a team that's had their number, who's won a championship, and they went and got these specific guys. They went and got Nurkic. They went and got our other dude. Oh, my goodness. I can't remember his name.
Eubanks.
Thank you. Drew Eubanks.
Got Bol.
I got to think. I always think of,
got some length.
I think of Burbank. I don't know. But Drew Eubanks.
Yeah.
And we'll see if that has played itself into keeping them close in a series with Denver. Because that's why you went and got those guys. You got rid of Ayton, not just because he's not the max player he thinks he is.
Right.
And not just because he couldn't get along with the coach who they let go of anyways.
Right.
But because they needed to get bigger and stronger down low with these guys. They didn't go out and get a guy like I talked about in Brook Lopez, who I would have wanted him to go get. Not Sideshow Bob, not his brother, not Robin Lopez, but Brook Lopez, But maybe in the draft you go get a Zach Edey. That's that type of guy. You need a guy with tree trunk legs. You need a guy that can get up and down the floor, a guy that's thick.
Right. Do you know what's funny? I'm pretty sure right now in the projections, the Suns are projected at like the pick before Zach Edey's supposed to go.
Oh, my goodness. Do whatever you can to move up.
Yeah, right. That one pick.
Mr. Ishbia. I know you have eyes and ears everywhere. If you are listening, if you're
the
hearing
Suns are
this,
supposed to.
you all need to go get Zach Edey.
In this mock draft, the Suns are passing up on Zach Edey. They're one of the teams. But
James Jones, don't do it.
Yeah, but either way, I think Suns fans looking at their success against the Timberwolves, and the fact that they're not in the play-in, they made the playoffs, and they got a matchup against the Timberwolves. Suns fans are as optimistic about as they can be, especially since it was just last week that they lost to a Clippers team with no Kawhi and no James Harden. And then you got Devin Booker say, we're chilling after that loss, acting like, a lot of fans, were questioning the Suns' heart after that game, right? And then they went to LA and they play the Clippers again, and they didn't have Paul George, and they barely won that game. So a lot of fans were questioning their heart. So, what Suns team are you going to get? Are you going to get that Bradley Beal last second stop, it's time to play defense Suns? Or are you going to get we're chilling Suns?
Well, I think we live in the moment, as one does, because we are in the present. But we live in the moment that, we're upset when they're, because they've been up and down. So we have a right to be, as fans, as media, as people that, want to see, positivity and see the team succeed. Watching that happen, they've had their now, so we have the right reason to ask those questions. But if I feel like the players know that they can be dialed in, and I think that leader we're talking about. Oh, it should. Is it Booker? Is it Kevin Durant? Remember, Giannis was the best player on the Bucks, but Drew Holiday was the leader.
Yep.
Okay. Devin Booker and Kevin Durant are the best players on this team, but maybe Bradley Beal needs to be the leader.
Yeah.
Maybe Bradley Beal. He's that dog. Not that they're all not, but he might be more of listen.
Yeah.
We've got to do this. We've got to be here. We've got to look at it like this. We can't rely on this over here. It's us. Mm-hmm. They need that guy. Draymond's not the best player for the Golden State when they were winning all those championships, but he was their leader.
Right.
A lot of times
Or
you
like
have to
the
be
Suns-
successful. You
the
can't be the
Suns
bum. You can't
brought
be the
in-
guy on the 12th guy.
I gotta
talking.
say, Chris Paul, as much as people love him or hate him, like Chris Paul has been a great leader when they brought him in as a mentor, and they brought him in as a leader for Devin Booker. But I feel like Devin Booker just picked up on all the bad stuff from Chris Paul. Like now, just refs hate Devin Booker. Like I don't know if he picked up on too many of the leadership skills. But either way, I did want to shout out my brother since you quickly commented on his comments earlier. He was bringing up the fact that even though fans are excited about kind of the dominance against the Timberwolves, they were excited a couple years ago. You said 10. It was only a couple years ago that they were excited about their success against the Mavericks. They got the Mavericks in the playoffs. It went 7, and the Mavericks knocked out the Suns. The year they set the franchise record, Suns franchise record. So again, regular season basketball, playoff basketball, they're two totally different things. So, you already have them taking home 2 games in Minnesota. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves.
1, but you like to see them get 2. Could they take 2? Yes.
Yeah, you would like.
you would like to see it.
to see them sweep the series.
Yeah, of course.
James, but
All right, so real quick. So we are gonna have a bonus segment going into the 15-minute after the hour with you guys since we had a little bit of technical difficulties. But real quick before the break, MVP. This also seems like the most lackluster MVP race we've had in a long time. Every year there's arguments of who's MVP. Last year, was it Joel Embiid? Is it Joker? The year before that, is it Joker? Is it Giannis? You had your arguments with Shaq and Steve Nash. And yes, Steve Nash deserved it. He might have deserved 3 in a row. But I digress. Looking at it now, is it Luka? Is it Joker? Is it SGA? Is it Jalen Brunson? The reason I ask these questions is because nobody jumps off the page. My brother, shout out Seth, was bringing up, Brunson's numbers and SGA's numbers, and Luka's averaging like 34, 9, and 9. And it's like 34, 9.8, and 9.4. He's almost averaging a 35 triple-double. Like, they're right in the mix of the playoffs. Kyrie's played well with them. He hasn't said anything crazy. Nobody's, there's no hype on them necessarily for that. Mm-hmm. Joker's doing what they did. They only ended up in the 2 seed. You know what I mean?
Right.
On their way to another championship run. What SGA has done with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that team being basically the youngest team in the NBA at averaging like 23.5 years of age, being the number 1 seed, almost wire to wire.
Right.
Like, and Jalen Brunson, what he did with the Knicks.
Yeah.
All these 40-point games.
Yeah,
SGA had the most 30-point games in the season.
I think SGA and Brunson, those are kind of like, those are the people's MVPs. You know what I mean? What will the league do? I don't know, though. I feel like that's going to Joker.
You know what? I think it's going to go to Luka. I think because they can get away with it with not somebody being dominant, that they can get away with it. All right, on this side of the break, we're going to get into a little bit more basketball. There's some free agency talk and a little bit of MLB. That's right, baseball. You guys are listening to James Out West on KDUS 1060 Phoenix. Make sure you guys come on back.
Welcome back to James Out West, featuring Ryan Rooks on KDUS 1060.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. A little overtime action. KDUS 1060 Phoenix, James Out West, Pat the Stat Guy, Aaron, same side of the glass. All right, so we were talking NBA. Obviously, there's a lot going on playoff-wise, and we were talking MVP. And you'd mentioned Joel Embiid and how he didn't play. You are big on, you always bring up, because you're the stat guy, about, the 65-game minimum. It's 65-game minimum. Didn't play that, but he had the numbers potentially to have been back-to-back.
Right. Well, look, if you look at league leaders, right, the scoring leader this year is Luka Doncic at 33.9, right? And then if you just go down that list, on 5, it says 34.7, Joel Embiid. I don't know how this list works over here. But either way, the only reason Joel Embiid isn't the lead leaguer, the league leader in scoring is because he didn't reach the 65 games, right? So he doesn't.
How many games did he play? And if you don't know, real quick, I'm going to talk while you look that up real quick if you can, sure. The reason I ask that is they finished in the 7th seed. They're in the play-in. They're playing the Heat. Remember, the Heat went from the play-in to a championship, right?
Okay, yeah.
So go ahead. How many games?
He played in 39 games, and these were his stats in those 39 games. 34.7 points per game, 11 rebounds even, 5.6 assists.
All right. So if he plays 20 more games, 22 more games, do they win 3 more games? And the reason I ask that is they're the 7th seed. If they win 3 more games, they win 50 games. They're the 2 seed like the Knicks.
Yeah.
Like you could have had. That's how big of a difference that runs in the tentacles of one thing happening. Joel Embiid doesn't play enough games. They're not the 2 seed. He's not the runaway MVP. So then maybe Luka wins it, be his first one. Congratulations. Or it'll be Joker getting his third and putting him in that elite territory where all the big guys on TV are going to complain about how he doesn't deserve to be there, just like Steve Nash and all this yada yada.
Yeah.
That's how big of a difference is with one guy missing that many games in such a tight group. You look at this, the Cavs are the 4 seed at 48 wins. Like 1 game difference with no Joel Embiid for half the season.
Yeah.
That team could be a problem. And what's crazy is they win and move. If they win, they go on to play the Knicks right away.
Yeah.
Like Jimmy Butler's not going to be in the first round, or Joel Embiid's not going to be the first round.
I feel like we got robbed as NBA fans, basketball fans in that one. But you're right. Like, the last month or two, however long we haven't had Joel Embiid, people have been talking about Boston, how great they are. And you've been making a lot of speculation about the Eastern Conference playoffs. Because I guess we didn't really know when Joel Embiid would come back and how he would be. But Joel Embiid is back, and if he's playing near his top potential, like, the Sixers are dangerous in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Like, Boston, all of those teams, Milwaukee, they all have to be worried.
Dude, imagine if the Sixers lost to the Heat in the play-in game and they go and play the winner of the Hawks-Bulls. If they won that, they would play the Celtics. You could have Celtics-Sixers round 1 and
That's
have
crazy.
Knicks-Heat round 1.
Yeah.
Like, you could get both. You could get both because they're the 7-8 seed. You could get both of those in there. And that would really make for a really interesting, because the East is kind of weak. Cavs, Magic, nobody cares. Like, I did hear a stat. Other than a LeBron James Cavalier team, the Cavs haven't been out of the first round of the playoffs since 1992. I mean, that's a long time ago, bro.
Crazy.
Majority of the league wasn't alive when that happened. But the West isn't where all the power is. All the power is in the West because you got all these teams. The Mavericks, this should be their year that they can make a splash. The Clippers are the Clippers. Are they going to get over that hump? We see the Timberwolves. You got Oklahoma. You got us as in the Suns, and of course the Nuggets and LeBron James and the Lakers. Like, so the West is just so stacked. Oh, and I forgot Steph Curry. Like, they're just so stacked.
That's what I'm
with
saying. With
storylines for them. But my question is this: whoever ends up winning this, whether it's, let's say it's Denver wins another one, or it's the Celtics, or the Bucks somehow figure it out, and Giannis, he's injured, but something like that. What do teams do going forward next year? Because a lot of these teams are locked in with a lot of money.
Right.
And you got a lot of free agents out there, like Klay Thompson's a free agent. He's probably leaving. Now, granted, he's not the player he was.
Right.
You got player options like LeBron. LeBron's got a $51.4 million player option. Mm-hmm. He's taking that player option. He's not walking away from that player option. Shout out Drew Holiday for getting paid earlier, because he was on that too. He was set to make $39.8 million next year.
Yep.
$39.8 million, dude.
Yeah, no.
Paul George now. Paul George is the other one. Paul George, they owe him player option $48 million next year. He's not signing a contract, dog. He's going to take that $48 million 1 year
that's
guaranteed.
Huge money.
I mean, to see what that happens. So to me, it's like you got all those things. The Suns really can't do anything. They really can't bring anybody else in. They are top heavy as far as salary. So trading somebody, and I might be speaking out of my depth because I don't know all their numbers, but I know that they pay a lot of guys a lot of money, and there's a cap and there's a tax. And I know Ishbia is good for it and all that, and he wants to win. But you just said sometimes you can't get the talent. So they may need a Zach Edey, because you may need a guy on a rookie contract like that can eat up some minutes and be able to hopefully be a guy that you hit on that's not going to cost you an arm and a leg, because they've got guys on the bench, shout out like Ish Wainwright, making a couple $1 million, doesn't play, doesn't dress.
Right. Well, I'm glad they signed Grayson, though, extended
Me
Grayson,
too.
because there was all this talk about, like, hey, look, Grayson kind of was like an extra piece in the offseason. Like, he was kind of thrown in a trade, and we're all like, wait, what? We have Grayson Allen on the team? We didn't even know. And then so everyone was like, hey, trade him while he's got the value, right? And so, like, that's the options. You're either going to trade him while he's got the value, or you better re-sign him, because he's a great fit on the Suns.
So as long as they don't try to move him, he'll finish his career here, because 4 more years. I mean, Grayson Allen, which is crazy. I feel like that we're
Just
old.
because he's got gray hair.
No. We're old. No, listen, we're old because he was in college. How long has he been in the league? Like 10 years? That sounds crazy.
That
does sound crazy, and sometimes I do
but then
embellish
again,
numbers.
The fact that the Final Four was here 7 years ago, that feels like it was yesterday to me.
Exactly.
So, not the one that was yesterday, but like the one that was actually 7 years ago feels like it was 3 years ago. So maybe Grayson Allen has been in the league for a decade.
Well, he's 28. He's been in the league, I don't know.
6-7 years, but still.
Yeah, he's been in the league 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Good for him. Good for him for getting the money. So yeah, he'll play a little bit longer than that. But shoot or shoot. You know what I mean? And he stays in good shape. their team, again, very unique in the sense that, like, we didn't think when he got, he's a starter?
Dude,
He's going to be logging
he's
that
the
many minutes?
fourth guy. Like, if there was a big four, like, I think it's Grayson over Nurk. Like
100%. 100%. Because you can push the offense through Grayson.
Yeah.
He's big. He plays.
The best thing about Nurk is he's not DeAndre Ayton. That's the best thing about him.
That is the best thing about him. All right, so NBA, obviously, Suns have 2 games coming up over the weekend. We got the play-in happening, and we will know when we're in next week, whether it's over Monday, we'll know at least one game is done and where the Suns stand, and we'll be able to talk about that. But I want to get into baseball before the show is over because we've had, first couple weeks of baseball. Couple of surprises early in the year and not so many surprises. Surprise, the Yankees and Dodgers are good. They have good records. But surprise, the Pittsburgh Pirates are 11-5, and I think they're going to be 12-5. I think they might have won today.
Nice.
So 12-5. Some of those teams, they do come back down to earth. That'll. I'm going to say that's probably my team, the Cleveland Indians. I know I said it, the Indians, but the Guardians, whatever. The Tribe, either way, they're 12-5. They lost 2 to the Yankees and ended up beating in the last game in that series. They went to Boston today and won. That's a surprise because we have no power. They just lost Shane Bieber to a Tommy John surgery and all this stuff. Yankees 12-4, best in the AL. I thought this was interesting real quick too. With all the talk about Shohei Ohtani and everything, up until earlier today because the Padres played, he had the most at-bats of anybody in Major League Baseball. And I was like, okay, that's an interesting stat because, he's not pitching. He's got an injury, but he still got the most at-bats. But then in that same vein, the next 2 guys are Cleveland Guardians guys, Steven Kwan and Jose Ramirez. And they've played 2 less games than these Jacks. Yeah. So our team's getting up to the bags. You know what I'm saying? They're hitting.
Yeah, no.
The boys are hitting. They're feeling good. But the Diamondbacks being 8-8, well, hopefully 9-8 because I know they're playing the Cubbies right now. They're battling. And this is exactly what I thought people figured there's going to be a fall off with the Diamondbacks because nobody expected them to do what they did. But these guys have like the thought process and that confidence that, no, we can and we will, and we'll be right there with them. We can play with anybody. We could play with the Yankees when they were here. Early in the season when you don't know what you got, you know what I mean? Lavella's got those kids, I say kids, young men, locked in because they know it's a long season, but they literally play every game like it's their last. Yeah. That team does play baseball like every game is their last. They play very aggressive ball. And it's fun to watch. So being 8-8 and being in the thick of it is all you want. What do you want to do? You just don't want to lose series. You don't want to get swept. You want to win series. You want to take 2 or 3.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said kids, though, because I did want to bring up some kids in the MLB because we did just have Jackson Holliday get his first hit in Major League Baseball a couple days ago. If you don't know, Jackson Holliday is Matt Holliday's son. And again, speaking kids, man, that Orioles team with him and Gunnar Henderson, like, man, they've got some young kids that can really hit. And again, Jackson just got his first MLB hit. I don't want to call him a great duo because, again, first hit, but we were expecting a lot from this kid. Matt Holliday, great career. But it did, made me think of all the old duos, father-son duos in Major League Baseball and kind of the current ones. So obviously some of the legends, you got Bobby and Barry Bonds, Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr., Felipe and Moises Alou, all the Biggio, all the Boones. Sorry, the Boones. Ray, Bob, Brett, Aaron Boone. Yeah, all the Alomars. And then currently in the league, a lot of, you got Vlad Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, Kevin Biggio, and then now Fernando Tatis Jr. Either way, there's a lot of great pedigree in the league, and Jackson Holliday. So I think people are super excited about Jackson. Probably the most excited people have been about a young prospect since Vlad Guerrero Jr.
100%. And I just feel bad for him for having to live in that city that is Baltimore and play in that horrible town on the East Coast. But other than that, congratulations. And that he got the nod from Cal Ripken for Cal Ripken Sr. to wear 7 because that was his dad's number and he got the okay for it. Yeah. So we talk about some lore. That is what I'm talking about. So good for them. Baseball keeping the traditions alive. I like it. All right, y'all. You guys are listening to James Out West featuring Pat the Stat Guy on KDUS 1060 Phoenix. Make sure to check us out on YouTube at The James Out West Show and JamesOutWest.com. We will be talking to you guys next week about the Phoenix Suns. Go Suns, baby. Pat, you got anything?
Nope, that's it.
Aaron, you got anything? All right, boys. You guys have a great night. Everybody be safe. One love.
Peace.